A couple of the topics that I chose to analyze in my paper were the reactions or the emotions shown and the characters of Chronicle of a Death Foretold and The Stranger. In Chronicle of a Death Foretold, I noted that the people react more calmly and placid than they do in The Stranger. A quote to show that they do is, "Don't bother yourself, Luisa Santiago," he shouted as he went by. "They've already killed him." This is just one of the many quotes in the book where they express their knowledge of knowing that Santiago Nassar was going to be killed. He knew that he was going to be killed, but he didn't even seem like he was going to be doing anything about it. He just kind of said it. He said they've already killed him, but that doesn't mean that he can't be sad about it, and he didn't show any emotion at all. The topic of my paper was differences of the characters in The Stranger and Chronicle of a Death Foretold, and I didn't choose a specific difference to analyze only because there are so many between the two books. Although at the same time there are as many similarities as differences, which is also one of the reasons I didn't assign a certain difference to look upon, because being that there's so many of each, you can't choose so many because that'd be too much. So I just did a couple of the most important ones I felt were in the book. I went about searching for my topic by finding something that was very interesting to me, as well as I thought it'd be interesting to other people, because reading a book that's boring doesn't make you want to read it. It makes you lose interest. So I decided to do something that I feel like people might be interested in. I chose The Stranger and The Chronicle of a Death Foretold for a point. They're both very contrasting books because of the completely different settings and completely different characters. So comparing and contrasting the characters in these books, I felt really gave insight to their personal feelings because you got to analyze them more in depth, and it also gave insight to both of the books and the books in total. I didn't necessarily go about writing the paper any different way. I did what I normally do. I gathered my information about one book, I gathered it about another book, and I just differentiated the order of both the books in the paper so it didn't get too mundane just talking about one book and the differences in that book, because the point of the paper is Another difference in The Stranger and A Chronicle of a Death Foretold is that in A Chronicle of a Death Foretold, they freely announce the fact that they're going to kill Santiago Nassar, where in The Stranger, he just does it on a whim. He doesn't even announce anything. He doesn't even think about it. He just does it, which plays along with his case in the end of The Stranger, because he just did it so blindly, so harshly. You know, he just did it without even thinking about it, which doesn't help his case, because if you're known for not even, premeditating it, it's just, it doesn't look good for you. Even though premeditated murder doesn't look good either, murder isn't good in general. But in Chronicle of a Death Foretold, they just completely they just announce the fact that they don't hold back. They just announce that they're going to kill him. They didn't care who heard. A quote from The Chronicle of a Death Foretold is, "We're going to kill Santiago Nassar," he told him. "My brother doesn't remember it, but even if I did remember, I wouldn't have believed it. He told me many times. Who would ever think that the twins would kill anyone, much less with a pig knife?" And in the sentences before this quote in the book, the twins were showing people their knives, just flaunting them without a care of what people would say, and them doing that represents that they clearly wanted to know people that they were going to kill Santiago Nassar, along with blatantly telling him how they were going to kill him as well, and with what weapons. And a part in the book, they were killing him with pig knives, clearly that they used to kill pigs and, cut them. Someone in the book noted that that was a really harsh object to kill them with because they're treating him like an animal when he is clearly a human. A difference I noted in The Stranger is that they also react rather slowly to me, whereas in Chronicle of a Death Foretold, they react placid, without emotion, and in The Stranger, they act slow, and their emotions are definitely more measured and thought out than the people in Chronicle of a Death Foretold. But the only person's emotions that weren't very calculated were Mersault's And like I said, we know why, because he just went about killing that Arab man without a thought in the world. And a quote says, "Then everything began to roll before my eyes. A fiery gust came from the sea, while the sky cracked in two from end to end, and a great sheet of flame poured down through the rift." That quote is the process in which he was going to kill the Arab. He was out on the beach and it was really hot, and we know him and his tendencies. He's a very strange, psychopathic man, I think. And there was really nothing at all that was actually even driving him to kill the man. He had nothing against him. The person that he did have something against was his friend that invited him up to the place that they were staying that weekend. And he just killed him, which was obviously a really rash decision, and it didn't play out well for him in the end because he ended up having to be hung. Another quote that explains my previous statement that they react slowly was, "Look out," I cried. "He's got a knife." I spoke too late. The man had gashed Raymond's arm and his mouth as well. And the quote expresses what I said, that if he even spoke a little bit sooner, at least 5 seconds sooner, noting that he had a knife and that he was most likely going to harm Raymond with it, he could have saved Raymond from the serious injuries that he got, because he could have died from that. And I think that along with Mersault's psychopathic tendencies and just his bad decision making, slow acknowledgement is in there as well.